A man getting bit by an alligator and he screams.
Okay, quiet.
Stood out towards me.
Ow! No, not an owl. A real scream of pain.
It's like Hagen-Dazs. Anyway, welcome back, Screamers, to another episode where we consider if we're simply puppets on someone else's strings. Today we return.
Everyone's a puppet.
Everyone's a puppet. Today we return with part 2 of our previously truncated gift exchange episode, and we are looking at the films Sunday from 1997, not to be confused with the multitude of films named Sunday or with the name Sunday in their name. The puppet socio-political thriller Abruptio, and coup to you, Jason, the Soviet film Kin-dza-dza. I know I have really held off, like, you know, every time I see you like squatting. Just going cue.
You know, I tend to not program foreign films at the fundraiser, just because, you know, it is what it is, right? I mean, like, I'm trying to appeal to a really broad crowd, and it's like, and not that I necessarily think the crowd would dislike it per se, but I try to make the barrier to entry pretty light, but still to the point where it's like, you know, it's you know, relatively obscure and but also enjoyable. So I mean, I've steered away from doing foreign films, but Kin-dza-dza has been on my short list for a really long time of like trying to program somewhere. Because like, as opposed to the film that we saw last night, Gaga, it's not as heavy, obviously. It's much more fun. And it's also, I think, I mean, like, I don't necessarily know it's more obscure, but it certainly was harder to find for a really long time. And I not to say I wasn't not trying to badmouth Gaga. I really like that film, but Kin is so it's so lighthearted and silly. And that
it's a lot more like Monty Python-esque, right?
Yeah, right. Yes, it is very it's very Russian Monty Python. Yeah. And I think
Soviet Monty Python.
Sure. True. I guess that good point. But yeah, so
well, should we just start with that film?
We can say, man, I was it was your gift exchange. I was going to say I don't even remember how long ago it was we did the other one. So, but it's your gift exchange. I'll let you choose. Choose the films in the order of the films.
Let's go ahead and start with Kin-dza-dza since we started talking about it. I think it's a good place to start.
Вот машинка перемещения в пространстве. Так какой контакт мне нажимать, чтобы домой переместиться?
Значит, сработала эта хреновина. Пошли! Тихо.
Так.
Вовка, ты где?
Люсенька, родная моя. Катя, давай спичку.
А ну быстро все! В корыто!
Это планета Плюк. Галактика Kin-dza-dza в спирали.
Играй.
Маймуна Верешвила.
Господин Уэф, я представитель цивилизованной планеты и требую, что вы проследили бы за своим лексиконом.
Соседство с галактикой Kin-dza-dza – наша беда.
Дядя Вова, давай еще. Ку!
Вот вывези нас отсюда, а ну тебе ку. Встать!
Ну, скрипка!
Ку!
Strangers in the night, exchanging glances, warm rain in the night. What will its chances shall be for in love? In love before.
It is definitely, I think, the lightest of the three. So the log liner, the synopsis is: two Russians push the wrong button on a strange device and end up on the telepathic planet Pluk with its strange societal norms. So when did you first see this? Because I remember reading about, like, I think it was Deaf Crocodile that put out like a Blu-ray of it, and that was the first time. And I mean, I had kind of known about, I guess, maybe like the lore behind. Just, I mean, that it was this film that was was supposed to be really amazing and was like hard to find, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and it was one of those ones that, like, it I don't really remember when it came into my consciousness. Since I've been doing the fundraiser, I'm constantly like looking through like strange film guides and like the weirdest stuff you'll ever see, and and then trying to like marry it up with the vibe of the fundraiser. And so this one had come across I mean, I'd been aware of it for a little bit, probably not. I mean, like, I think it started to come back into like the consciousness in like 2016. There was a Little White Lies article, but I wasn't aware of it then.
Yeah.
And then trying to find it prior to the Deaf, and I don't know when Deaf Crocodile put it out, but it was only like a couple years ago, right?
It was like 2020 or something.
Okay,
wasn't it?
so maybe it was
but somewhere around. I mean,
right.
It may have been later than that, so it may have been closer to like. Today.
But prior to that, you could find it, but like the subtitles were shit. Like, and it was really hard to like, and this is one, like, even the Deaf Crocodile subs are good, but like, especially at the beginning when they're walking and they're subbing the credits, they lose some of the dialogue, and I'm like, I'm not sure why you're subbing the credits here. Right. It doesn't make any sense, like why you're subbing the wrong thing. And I mean, I'm sure there's a reason for it. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure there's a reason for it. And so
I guess there's a reason for everything, even if like,
right.
That's
we're just lazy, and like,
we
prefer to give credit where credit is due rather than listening to actual. Like, you just learn Russian, or it's fine.
Yeah.
And so. Yeah, I probably around that same time frame was that the Blu-ray came out, was kind of when I started to become like aware of it and like had seen it. And honestly, it took me, like, I don't know if I really dug it the first time I watched it, because I think I was watching it with and I will say this, I dug it. I just don't think I really like started to truly appreciate it until I watched it a couple more times, because it was, I go into a lot of those like viewings for the fundraiser as, okay, I gotta figure this out. Like, is it gonna work? Is it not gonna work? So it's more almost like workman-like and watching.
It's like homework. And,
right.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, and like because it takes a minute to kind of like I don't know, you take a minute to get adjusted to its environment, right? Because it just throws you in. Like, it does not mess
like
around.
Immediately, just
right?
immediately.
Right. You see what you think is a homeless person wearing weird like skin-colored socks. And they press a button, and then immediately it's basically they're on Tatooine, and it's C-3PO and R2-D2 wandering the desert, essentially. So, and then the alien C-3PO and R2-D2 come up as well. So it's
right. I mean, this is a film that was inspired by both Kurosawa and George Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
No, but I think this is, I mean, doubly interesting because it was made in the Soviet Union.
Right.
And sort of all of the implications that these things then have because of that as well.
Yeah. And I was trying to equate it, to social commentary films that we have here, especially in times of, tumultuous times. I think, I think last year was a really interesting film year for social commentary but also I think it's kind of weird. Like, I don't necessarily know. I know this is a beloved film in Russia, or in the Soviet Union, but I mean, but like, so equating those kind of populist films, what may have been a populist film in 86 or whatever, to films in the US today, things like Eddington and Begonia, or, I mean, there were a handful of others that came out last year.
Well, I mean, of course, like, Sinners and One Battle After
and
Another,
Weapons, and even things like,
yeah,
I mean, like,
yeah.
But, but there were like more pointed, like Eddington clearly, Begonia clearly, like there were ones that were just like really, truly like subversively commenting on society. I think where people got, where some of the messaging may have gotten lost, or, you may have missed it. But I think in this case, it's interesting to see kind of all of these like Russian films around the time of the fall of the Soviet Union, and kind of the quote unquote end of the Cold War, where how interesting it is to kind of have them mock themselves or mock their institutions, and then how amazingly translatable it is to ever, I mean, like, not only like 80s US, but also today. I mean, it's, and it's, again, kind of contrasting Gaga and this, I think they're both, I think they're both extremely prevalent. I mean, not prevalent. They're both extremely, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for
pertinent?
here. Pertinent. Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There's
You're
a
welcome.
P word in there that I didn't make. Yes. I'm starting to sundown.
Well, it's getting late. It is getting late in the day. That's what you mean by sundown, right?
Right.
Just,
and so, yeah, I mean, I think it's really, really, truly just kind of amazing how well these films hold up. And it's one of those things too. Like, I wonder how this is clearly pretty marketed satire. Whereas I think, like, something like Eddington or Begonia, it's a little bit less, I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's like, I mean, I don't know. You can argue whether they are more or less on the nose, depending on how you want to, what your viewpoint is, and how those came across to you.
Well, I think Begonia, I mean, look, I think a lot of Lanthimos's work has a lot of, I mean, obviously commentary, but also like satire built into it. But it's a very kind of subtle, I think, satire for the most part, because you're never quite sure, like, okay, is he playing this straight, or, right, is he just taking the piss, right? And so I think with a lot of his films, and Begonia is one of those where it's sometimes it gets a little hard to like really tell,
right?
And I think Gaga, the Polish film that we watched recently, is a little more like that, maybe, right? Where it's like it's like you said, a little heavier. It's not as light. Where Kin-dza-dza is clearly, right, just clearly satirical. I mean, I think One Battle After Another was satire as well. Right?
Sure, right.
I'm like half kidding. But I think something that really, I think, fascinated me about Kin-dza-dza was also how much it seemed to be commenting not just on their own society, but like on Western society as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this absurdity of all, because I think you can make an argument that, that clearly when they go to Pluk, that could be, Western society, right? I mean, that could be all of this idea of like, oh, if you wear different colored pants, you have a different hierarchy. That clearly is commenting on capitalism and the nonsensical nature of this, of this kind of wealth hierarchy we have, in our country.
Yeah. Yeah. But then there's a line that they have where when our two Russians are like, why, like, why do you use this machine to tell, like, what class people are in? And they're like, well, how do you tell? And they go, we look at them.
Right, just by looking at
them. And I think like that line itself has like so many implications on like how we judge. I mean, there's a clear, I think, kind of like, racial undertone like in that comment, right? Because I was kind of wondering, like watching this film, like at what point are they sort of commenting on the, quote unquote egalitarian society that they live in, right? Or purport to live in versus, capitalism, right? Or a capitalist society, which is very much like have and have nots. Right. And so like it always kind of seems to go back or sort of like interlace those ideas, right, on top of each other, where it's like they're just like kind of hitting everybody at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I mean, I think it's so like, again, kind of rewarding on multiple watches because you can kind of then pick out the fact that, what's valuable on Earth is useless on Pluk, and because they talk about the rupees and then obviously and vice versa. One of the things I thought was really interesting too is how I didn't forget the Chatlians or the Chatlanians, and then there were the other groups. It was the it was the
Pitsaks?
Well, the Patsaks were like just low status, right? But was that the other group? I guess it was
just
those
the
two, right?
Those
yeah,
two, right?
Yeah.
Two.
And so if
you have orange pants, you're something else,
right? Or if you have like lights or horns on your head,
yeah.
But I like the idea that depending on whose planet you were, you have to wear the sack, the bell on the nose, right? And I thought that was really interesting as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would have loved to have seen how this was written, like how this was put out on the page, because it feels like you just got a bunch of like improv Python-esque actors and just said, do what you will, right? Yeah. I mean, just like here's a
yes, and your way through this, right?
Right. And dress however you want to dress, come to the party, like we're going to just film this. I think that's the other thing that like really kind of like I think gets lost maybe a little bit in the satire is just how well shot and how really beautiful this film is, even on its low budget aesthetic, how the landscapes are amazing. I mean, how it does kind of have like that George Miller-esque, like obviously Mad Max is a clear tie-in, but also there's none of that like ugliness in a way that you would expect a pseudo post-apocalyptic like bizarro land to have. It's all relatively friendly. All of it is all of it is just kind of accepting, like when they play this song about when they're singing the mother song, and how they all just like fall in love with it, and they're like, yeah, if we can just sing that across the galaxy, we'll own the entire planet.
But there's so much like the two guys, the two sort of like native guys, right, are just they are so much. I mean, this is where like I wonder, are they analogs for like Western society, because all they care about is sort of making money, getting out of here, right? They screw over the Russians a number of times, right? And then the Russians still try to like save them from being killed, or like put in a coffin for like 100 years or whatever. Right? They always go back to help.
Yeah, to the detriment of themselves, right?
Yeah.
Because when the time traveler comes back and says, "Hey, I can take you back right now to where you were," and he's like, "Hey, I can't."
Yeah.
And the architect's like, I can't do it. I can't leave them like that.
Yeah, we can't leave them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really important and interesting point the film makes, is that like this idea of leaving, even if it is a foreign land, like recognizing the humanity out of all of this, nonsense and pomp and circumstance that means nothing that we do, but the true connection, regardless of how, because you forgive people of their,
transgressions.
Well, they're not only their transgressions, but also like it's a message of like, I don't necessarily understand their customs or their culture, but at the heart of it, I don't want to see them come to harm especially because of something, because I introduced myself into their world and really kind of set them down a path. that they ended up in a in a box full of nails, laying on a box of nails. So I thought that was really cool, and I love the way that this film wraps up. Spoilers, obviously, they go back to Earth. They don't recognize each other. So there's two like Earth characters. They get transported after all of this time, transported back to their original timelines on Earth, and then like a maintenance vehicle comes by with a spinning light, which on Plut would have acknowledged a higher being, and they very quickly like both kind of sit down in the way that you're supposed to sit down, and that they recognize, they've gone through this together. I think that's a really a fun way to end this movie.
And they just point at each other, and it's great.
There's some Russian doll maker who has made a Kin-dza-dza, like a handcrafted like spaceship, the butterfly, it's whatever however it's translated, and then Bai and Yuf, and so like I don't like it's like a custom made thing, and it's really cool. I don't know if he's still selling them or not. I mean, you have to reach out to him.
So you have to find one. I can see some empty space on your bookshelf where it would perfectly
sit. Yes, absolutely.
You mentioned Mad Max, and we've mentioned the Little White Lies article, but I just want to like kind of read one of the things they say. Kin-dza-dza's salvage punk aesthetic, which might be best described as Mad Max meets Monty Python by way of Tarkovsky, which I think is pretty accurate. I mean, really, for this film, that is about as accurate as you can get.
And whatever influences that were on it, I mean, it had to have influenced, filmmakers. Like it just feels like a Buckaroo Banzai kind of like. I mean, there had to have been like there's a lot of like 80s sci-fi that had to have stolen from this. And I'm not necessarily saying that. I mean, like Miller would have, like Mad Max would have come out before this, but I mean, I don't know. It just shares so many of the same, markings that all these other, that a lot of these other films have that, and especially, I mean, clearly, I think this was obviously clearly inspired, probably by Hidden Fortress and probably by Star Wars. Not quite by Spaceballs, but
or even like a kind of Dune film. I mean, I don't know how much of like of a when was Jodorowsky's Dune? When did he try to do that? I'm just wondering. Yeah, I forget exactly when that was, but you could see, I think, kind of hallmarks there too. I like also the theme of having used up all the water, and the only way to get water is to like distill it from fuel, right? So this water, the water that they use to make the fuel, now you have to use the fuel to make the water. And I thought that was a really great kind of through line throughout the thing. I'm trying to think. I mean, I all of it, I think, is, I mean, like I said, it's a 2 hour and 13-minute film. I don't ever feel like it really ever feels like it drags at all. I feel like it moves along pretty crisply. It's funny throughout. It's not like it's laugh out loud funny in a lot of, but it's just so charming. And it's, for the type of satire it is, it's not cynical in a lot of ways, that like a lot of Gilliam and Monty Python stuff is. It always still has kind of almost a Pollyanna-ish way of looking at the world. And so, I mean, I think that's another thing that kind of makes it refreshing, right? Is that it's just funny and fun, and it really truly does get to the heart of like every societal norm just being a ridiculous nonsense thing that we just assume that we just assume because we were taught, or we just go along because we go along, right? No, it's I mean, I just, sorry, but I just want to jump in, but I love that, like, these two guys, Bai and Woof or whatever, I forget exactly their names, but like,
it's Bai and Uf,
Bai and Uf, where they're like, you have to do this when you see this, and they're like, why? Like, you just do like,
and I like how complicated it gets. It's like if you're at this level, you've got to sit down twice.
Right. Right. But I mean, again, it just calls attention to like, wait, why do we do these things that we do? And then even if we look around, you know, and again, like us being in the United States and then in Texas, I mean, there's like a couple different layers, right,
sure.
of different sort of like cultural customs. So, I mean, like just even going from sort of country to country, right? And this movie takes it from, you know, planet to planet, and how things are just so bizarre and just tropey and constructed.
Right. And I think I'm really glad that Deaf Crocodile had taken it on to like kind of to basically put out a really nice version of it with, you know, the subtitles as they exist. Because I think the translation's really well done to the point where like they talk about how if you're well-to-do enough, you get the honor of wearing gold pants, or if you're even more well-to-do, you can wear maroon pants. And if you're even, you know, and I like the phrasing of that, of like, if you're at this stage, you have the ability to then wear something stupid, right? That denotes your place in society. I think
even
a lot of that
look
stuff,
like a jackass,
right? I think a lot of that is really, really. I don't know. I think that translation's important, but and the rest of it, I think, you know, just the overall kind of like that again, that kind of like what Little White Lies said, that kind of punk rock aesthetic. You know, and the special effects being, I think, really good, but also having that kind of, you know, almost the cardboard cutout kind of feel to them a lot of times is really, really, I mean, I think it's just really, it adds one to the mythos of this film. And then I think it just makes this movie so much fun.
Yeah. And like you said, it makes it that much more charming as well. Right.
Right.
And
had you seen this before? Sorry, I mean, to step on you, but okay.
No. Like I said, I had known that it was a thing, but I had not sat down to watch it. So I'm glad.
And it's on Tubi now, but like even I don't think and I think that's only relatively recent. And there's a lot of Deaf Crocodile stuff on Tubi actually as well. But yeah, so I mean, like it's readily available. I think it's one of those ones. I think it'd be really cool to have a revival of sorts, and like can kind of get a push to be theatrically released, because I think it'd be there's a lot of things
I'd love to see this. I'd love to see this with a crowd.
Oh yeah. And that's the thing. So I think one of the things I was trying to like get to, and I obviously get derailed when I talk out loud, but is when I was talking about like doing research for this, and like again, I don't necessarily know if it's completely right for the fundraiser, but I would love to have it at the Modern and just to see it. And just to watch it with a group, because I do think, or take it to something like, you know, the weird, you know, the Mutant Bazaar when we switch these things up, because I think that would really play well with that crowd as well. So,
yeah, I think so too. I think that would be a good place for it. Yeah, go out there and watch Kin-dza-dza.
You have it for free right now.
You have no excuse now, right?
You have 133 minutes to spare.
Everyone does.
You're
one's
not
busy.
doing anything.
No one's
Throw in
busy.
some laundry, and then, you know, press the button and come and watch.
Yeah. Look, I don't want to hear this shit about like, oh, I'm working or I have other things. You're fine. Look, no one is
everything.
busy.
Everything will wait.
No one is.
Everything
busy.
can
None
wait.
of us. None
There's
of us have
nothing that's important
going
that's going on.
God.
No, it's fine.
There's nothing going on in the world. You can
delay everything you need to delay.
The fucking movie.
Just do it. Just stop.
Just now.
God
Go
damn
do it now.
Stop talking.
You can pause this. Go watch
this can
it.
Wait. This will be
Don't
when you get back.
worry about us. We will wait for you. Yes, we will never abandon you on a strange planet.
We haven't even really mentioned the whole fucking thing about the film, like how the people from Plug communicate telepathically, and so their language has been broken down to just basically grunts and whistles, but they all say "coo" or "q"
or "q," and "q" is vulgar.
Q is
like the vulgar.
It's a societally acceptable curse word.
Right.
It's funny. Like the Wikipedia doesn't have a very good breakdown of the plot, because how can you? But there is that, and so the movie stops down halfway through, which is really funny. And I think that's a really kind of cool part of the film, is like when you realize, oh, they can now, we're going to all speak Russian, and like it's all going to be fine.
Right.
Because like everyone can communicate with one another now.
Yeah.
because they were thinking of things. So you thought of macaroni, so I knew what that word was.
So I knew what that
which
was.
Which is, I think, a really brilliant construct, actually. I think it's a really brilliant construct. And just this idea of them saying "coo" all the time. But on the Wikipedia, it has a breakdown of the dictionary. Basically, that's the movie stops about an hour in and does part 1, part 2, and part 2 is just a breakdown of Pluk words and how they translate.
Yeah,
good times.
Go watch it. Good times. All right, let's. So if you're back from watching Kin-dza-dza, we're now going to talk about Abruptio, because I think we both, or maybe just like watched Sunday, the more recent of the three.
Probably so. Yeah.
So I want to save that for last. So I want to go ahead and jump into Abruptio. And
I've done some terrible things. Things I didn't think I was capable of.
How do you know it's a bomb?
Les Hackle, will you come with me?
You're here to provide your confession.
I haven't done anything.
Have you ever felt that, Lester? An emptiness that you can't fill?
I'm losing my mind. Is there a blessing we should say or something?
Do you think anyone's listening?
Les Hackle is a guy down on his luck who wakes to find an explosive device has been implanted in his neck, but also he's a puppet. He's a life-size puppet. And so is everyone else in this film. Is a life-size puppet.
Well, except for the TV. The TV's cartoons, but
true. A TV is also a TV, so it can't be.
So yeah, this started production in 2016, and then took like 8 years to get complete.
Right. I think at one point the director was like, after 6 years, we're not halfway done yet.
Right. They had recorded all the dialogue. You know, so they have like Jordan Peele's in it, Sid Haig's in it, James Marsden, Robert Englund, and then Kristen McDonald, who plays, Shooter McGavin in Happy Gilmore. And he's in Grease too. So
that's right.
He plays the pseudo Kaneki role in Grease too. He's not Kaneki. Yeah. That's not, but he plays
because it was
Kaneki of Grease too. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So had you heard of this one? And then I want to hear your thoughts on Abruptio.
This one I had heard of, but again, it was not one that I had sat or sought out to watch, because I can be, I think, quick to judgment sometimes when I see things are puppets or rotoscope or, you know what I mean? A lot of times I'm kind of like, no. But sitting down to watch this, I found it, again, another film that is commenting on its current time, but also our current time, like very much so. It's creepy as hell. Like the life-size puppets are really creepy, but I think that aesthetic really works in the filmmaker's favors in trying to sort of get across what it's trying to get across, right? But also, like, this movie is not at all what it seems to be. I mean, there is
right.
Yeah. I mean,
go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. When we get to the end, I mean, there is this moment where you just go, oh, but yet it's also doing all this other work, right? In its social commentary. I mean, so like this idea that, like, again, like we're all, so people have these like bombs in their necks, and then they get these messages that are like, kill your best friend or go rob this liquor store. And if you don't, or if you fail, then the bomb explodes. Right. I mean, in your head, your head blows up. Right. Yeah. And so like this idea that like we're all literally like, puppets being controlled by other people. I mean, it's weird because it should feel like way too on the nose, but it doesn't. Right. It works. And I find that is a trick that I'm just like kind of in awe of, that it actually like.
Yeah, and you know how I feel about gimmick films, and I think that this skirts that pretty well. And I think the way that they put it together, I think this kind of falls into that level. I mean, like obviously there's some parallels, right? I mean, like excuse me, like you have Team America, which I think works on a whole different level because of the absurdity of it all. I think this kind of works as well in the same way. Because you start to lose yourself in it, and it never, like, again, the other gimmick things that we have talked about, like Good Boy or Skinamarink, or these films that are built around a central conceit that can't ever get out of their own way with that conceit. This movie clearly had something more to say, and I think the puppets allowed them to do something. Obviously, that is like you said, that's clearly the message that they were. At least part of the message they were trying to like push onto you at first is that, look, we're all in this world, we're all being driven by something else, or we allow ourselves to be driven by something else, and it's a matter of like whether we're going to take control over our own lives or not. Right. I think like you said, the having them be life-size puppets in the real world, having them like move the way that they do in certain instances, but then also be overly grotesque in most other instances, like really kind of allows you to like weirdly ground yourself in the film. And then like it also allows the grotesque features of the characters themselves, especially their face. I don't know what it does, but it allows that level of violence to be that's shown on screen to also just kind of blend in seamlessly with what you're already. So I don't know if I think there's only one moment where it truly like undercuts the emotionality of the film, and that's when the girl named Class comes in, and she's telling our protagonist about how she had just escaped and was almost raped, or she was raped, or it was like, so that moment of like her vulnerability gets a little lost because her facial emotions aren't there. But I think the voice acting is superb, and I think that it still comes through.
Yeah. No, I think all of the voice acting is great in this film, and I think in a lesser film, the violence is more comical. And I never feel like it's comical here, right? I mean, so like when he decapitates the guy with the shovel, right? It's if it's funny because we're uncomfortable because he just killed an entire family like in their home, right? But it's not funny when like some of these other films that would do a kind of cartoonish thing, or like would have puppets. It still hits you, I think, like it should. And
I think, he's almost trying to turn that off, right? I mean, like I really dug Haig's character in this, and I really dug all of the crude and like terrible one-liners. I thought his whole character was really, really cool. And then that idea is like when he has to kill him and he cuts his head off with a shovel, but the head keeps talking. Yeah. It's that moment of like, I've got to get this kind of bullshit, like this, like crude and like, I don't know, this kind of overbearing humor out of this situation. I've got to turn it off. And that moment where she's just continually bashing the head over until it stops. Yeah, I think it's a really, really, that was a really powerful moment in the movie itself. I think the other one, I think again, there's just moments in this film that like separate it out from just being a gimmick. But I think when the cops come and they're trying to get him to confess, and he's like, what am I supposed to confess to? Like,
Right.
what do you think that
Right.
what have I done? What did I do? And he's clearly done. He's gassed his entire office. He's killed a family of 3 and taken over their home. He has a stolen car essentially. I think that was like what really was like, that's when the movie like really pulled me in, is that this guy's like being driven by these forces, but also he doesn't like, he's so, he's blameless in it for himself because someone else has told him to do it. Right. And so I think that parallel is an amazing one. And the fact that he's also desensitized to it all. Like, it doesn't even matter to him. It's because, he's allowed himself to like exist in this world where he's completely desensitized. He doesn't really kind of exist. He's just this kind of like nameless, faceless white guy that is going through the motions here.
Yeah. And it's kind of at that point where the movie turns too, right? Where the movie starts to kind of lean into something else. And it's also the point where we fully kind of see his desensitization, right? So he starts to act different with it's Chelsea, right?
Yes, Chelsea classes her,
right. And so like he starts to act different, like towards her, right? And then when she, is told to kill him, he, is able to kind of, kill her instead. But he's become hardened, I think, like right before our eyes, kind of throughout this film. And the cop saying, "You have to confess to us, right? We're not going to tell you what you did."
Right.
I mean, then parallels with what's really going on, right? In his kind of like repressing this moment where he, and I guess like, again, like spoilers in this, but this moment where he, in a moment of drunk driving, right, runs a bicyclist off the or kills a bicyclist, right? But of course he can't really, he's sort of trying to push that down and not acknowledge that when in here it kind of comes up, right? Like through this like fever dream that he's experiencing.
Yeah. And it's, and his not necessarily rationalization of it, but like his ability to go on and kind of be able to suppress is that he then takes on this, this air of, well, now it's alien monsters that are coming down to control us all. Right. And it's, so I've made this fantastical excuse for what's happening. It also allows me to subvert and to kind of like suppress that memory of the things that I've done. And yeah, it's it's an interesting movie because I think it does like warrant multiple viewings so you can start to pick up on all the visual clues and the things that are there. Like the website still exists. The website for that the filmmaker has still exists. He actually goes and adds a whole like explanation of the ending and kind of like talks through it. And he's like, I don't want to like over explain it because I want it to mean something different to everybody else. But I think he was trying to defend it in a lot of ways. Maybe that was being attacked online when it came out. And like, because of there's some, it's been accused of being misogynistic. But I think that's a point that you're still seeing this through the eyes of the protagonist, right? All of the women are this, I think it is a very slick commentary on cis white male view of 2020, this era of existence, right? Especially in kind of the, post-Trump, pre-Trump era that existed.
The age of Trump, yes.
Right. And this idea of like, well, women bosses are, overbearing and shrewish. And it's always his mom, and this is clearly a man who lives, he's 35 and he lives with his mom. So then clearly there's already messages that are out there. Right. And the girl that he chooses to kind of save him in a sense and pull him out is also a community college girl who's way too young for him. But she's also hypersexualized in the film, but also in a grotesque way. But then like even in the moments where he is, where the doctor comes in and it's, the female doctor comes in, she's hypersexualized as well. And is like, and also using terminology and like innuendo. And that's all kind of driven out of his own imagination. but I kind of now I forgot my point. But other than that it exists out there, the website exists out there. Okay, my point was that
he was defending it,
right? But my point is, I think it's one of those films that is beneficial to watch multiple times. I don't necessarily know if this is a film that I want to like live in this world for like over and over and over again. This is not something I'm going to go back and revisit. I think it's definitely an interesting movie, and I think that the filmmaking style, and the message tied together so well that I think it's one that should be watched. I don't necessarily know if I'm going to be wanting to watch it over and over again. This is not going to be a Blu-ray that I put on my shelf and let's pull this off and watch it after Thanksgiving.
Hey guys, hey guys, right. What are you doing? You want to watch Abruptio? No, but it does. But here's the thing: like there are a handful of movies, and probably more than that, but let's say a handful of movies that I've seen that are very kind of nihilistic and violent in their outlook. And I find them to just be sort of like a waste of time because of that, right? Because the violence is just there for violence sake. And it's not kind of like doing anything, right? Or the misogyny is there for just the sake of misogyny, right? And I'm thinking like just a couple like offhand. You've seen Bone Tomahawk?
Yeah.
Okay. That's one to me that is just like, this is just this guy kind of wanting to be hyper-violent on screen, and I don't think there's like much else to it, right? And I mean,
well, Cell Block is the same way, though, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, all of his films are like that. But then also, and this was just also like a bad film, right? But The Counselor with Michael Fassbender.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And Cameron Diaz and Javier Bardem. Another film that is just like, we're just going to be hyper-violent just to be violent, right? And I just like don't feel like there's a lot of redeeming qualities in films like that, but this one is not that, right? I mean, the violence, the misogyny, everything that's going on there is, I think, a real pointed commentary on what goes on around us. Like you said, kind of in the age of Trump, that the misogyny that's there, the crassness, the not my fault kind of stuff.
Right.
I mean, this is all like through that character's eyes, and it's an indictment on this character, right? It's not a defense of the character.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I use the term protagonist, but he's definitely not the hero of this story.
Right.
And even when he comes around, it's not like he's doing so out of some sort of like grand gesture. In fact, the movie actually even absolves him, and to a certain extent, because one, he confesses to his crime of hitting someone while drunk driving, but then the cops are like, yeah, you'll probably get a year and then you'll get paroled. Isn't that fucked up?
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, it is. I mean, another one of these films, like, it's an interesting, like, it's kind of been, it's been relegated to like this kind of horror genre, which I don't really think that it is.
No.
And so I mean, obviously it's going to play to a certain type of festival and a certain type of crowd, but I do think that, like, again, in the same breath of like, okay, well, Begonia and Eddington are really interesting social commentaries. This one in particular is very pointedly pointing a finger at these kind of like this manosphere bullshit, incel nonsense that's going on. And again, how much, whatever. But I mean, like, it is pointing out that, that this woe is me attitude from white males is essentially bullshit.
Yeah.
And this idea that you're being influenced by, alien invaders or people who have some sort of like control around you who are going to try to kill you if you don't do certain things. Go fuck yourself. I mean, and I think that is a point that's not, you don't really see that in very many movies. I mean, like, and granted, relatively a new thing. So I mean, but for him to have started to make this film in 2016, I think is a really, really, really interesting timeline for putting this all together.
Right. But, and it just, I mean, just to kind of comment back on what you said, it's like, I mean, he's showing us the kind of mental gymnastics that this guy has to go through to try to absolve himself, right, of what happened, right? Not just to repress the kind of like, memory of killing this person, but like, okay, no, it wasn't my fault because this, right? And it just gets like wilder and wilder and wilder in terms of why it's not his fault.
And he really has no problem doing any of it. Like, I mean, especially when it comes to the absolute slaughter of dead bodies that he has to do at a certain point. And everyone else around him, the Jordan Peele character, Sid Haig is a kind of his character is basically a version of him later on, right? I mean,
Right.
because they're the only two that you get that kind of like, this is who they are via that scan on the back of their neck kind of thing. You get those two guys and they're basically the same, right? They're just generic white guys. But everyone else is horrified by what's going on. And our protagonist just kind of walks through the world, not really caring and like not really being fazed by it at all. It very much parallels, I think, American Psycho in that way, of having that kind of same mentality, especially when you talk about the misogyny, right? It's meant to be, it's meant to kind of jar you, right? I mean, it's meant to be there as a indictment on the character rather than an actual endorsement of misogyny.
Right.
Which I know is kind of hard to translate sometimes, but
right. But again, this is where like I think media literacy comes in handy. Right.
It does help from time to time. Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes. I don't know. Yeah, I really dug this film. Again,
I'm glad I was worried. This was when I was like, all right, we'll see how it goes. Like because I mean, I think it is easy to kind of dismiss it right offhand, right? And not to say that it's what you would do, but I mean, it also then it gets to be hard to be like to get into its mindset. And
but you grew up with like, you remember DC Follies?
Yes. Yeah.
It was on like, the same kind of like puppets that were in the Phil Collins or the Genesis video, right?
These are the hands we're given and this is the world we live in. Yes,
but But I remember, like growing up, right, that DC Follies like show was on like sometimes late night, maybe after SNL or something, I forget. But, and so I think, growing up looking at those puppets that weren't really funny, right, that were kind of, doing something different with, again, like their political commentary, maybe that it sort of feeds into my appreciation for this as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. And I mean, I think I think the mastery of how well it's done and how great it looks, and especially in the wide shots where they're walking and they're coming in, like I think I think all that's just really, really impressive.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So watch it once.
It's on
watch
Plex.
It twice.
Plex
it is on
Plex.tv. You can watch it for free with ads.
Man, we should really get like Plex and Tubi to throw us some cash. Right?
Yeah, well,
guys,
who to reach out to?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to look into that. But then, do you really think we'd go through with it as much as we talk about kind of like anti-capitalism sort of mindsets? I'd probably look at the end of the day, I'm a whore, so maybe.
Right. If it allowed us to do this like full time, where this was it, then I absolutely would. I mean, what? Because here's the thing:
people just said no, that we never want that to happen.
Right, we never want you guys to do this full time. But here, look, I don't. And again, it's difficult to truly understand. All the reasoning behind people, the reason that corporations do what corporations do. I don't know who owns Tubi. I don't know who owns Plex, but it's not like we're over here like endorsing the Klan. I mean, like we are endorsing services that
if anything,
partake
the opposite.
Right. Yeah. I think
right.
Even if it's just implied, even if we don't say it out loud, we are anti-Klan. I mean,
we want to make sure that everyone knows that.
We will never say it out loud, but I hope that I hope people know that we're anti-Klan.
I do think that like we would never ever be sponsored by DraftKings or FanDuel.
Right.
I think you have made that impossible at this point.
Good.
No, not that I would.
I hope their buildings burn down with nobody in them, and that the earth is salted so they can never grow ever again.
No, not that I would endorse, being sponsored by. I'm just saying, right? Like,
I don't want anybody.
I do feel
physically
like every
hurt,
single podcast is sponsored by FanDuel or DraftKings
because it's easy,
at this point.
right?
Like,
I'm
what
sure,
the fuck, right?
I have been since we've turned on Hulu Live for the Oscar watch party. I don't. It's still on because I haven't canceled it yet, and then when I do, it'll still stay on until the end of the month or whatever. So I've been watching
money bags over here.
I've been watching the basketball hooping around that's going on right now.
The NCAA tournament?
Yeah, that one.
Colloquial known as March Madness?
Yeah, and I've been watching like women's sports, women's basketball as well.
As you should.
Right.
You should.
And like, so it's not shocking to me, but like, it's so disappointing that like one, that ESPN is so like embedded with these fucking guys. Like
ESPN is basically like a gambling show now. That's it.
Yeah. It's like, hey, best bets. Like, and here's like, I'm just go fuck yourself. Like, I mean,
every program I know, like me, you grew up watching SportsCenter, right? SportsCenter is basically like, here are the odds for every fucking game. It's like a betting, advice show. I mean, it's nuts.
I mean, like to the point of like, they're encouraging actual betting. I mean, obviously I know that's what DraftKings and FanDuel want them to do.
ESPN has their own service, right? The ESPN like Moneyline or ESPN Bet, whatever. So they have their own fucking service.
Remember when you used to call a 900 service from some scam guy that was like, "Hey, I just won 14 hits in a row, 14 games in a row. If you want to know the your parlays, call this number and I'll rattle them off really slowly to you so you can pay me $15 a minute."
Right. We would place bets with like bookies, right? I mean, just like a guy, right? A guy. And like this was when I used to bartend in like a neighborhood kind of like beer and whiskey joint, right? And so the bookie would come in and give me parlay cards, right? If anybody wants a parlay card, they're in this envelope, right? And I'd put it behind the bar and people would come and go, "Hey, you got a parlay card from blah, blah, blah." I'm like, "Yeah, here you go," right? And then put him back in there. He'd come in, "Brock, you got those parlay? Here you go," right? And then he'd come in with a brown bag with envelopes and like money if people won. And then I would hand them back out at the fucking bar.
And then you'd collect. You'd be taking the bat to people when they got to be too far in the hole.
No, not me. I didn't know. That was not. But I mean, but that's how. I mean, like that's what I grew up around, and now we've got like.
It's so ridiculous.
Well, now we've got like, Kalshi and Polymarket where we can fucking bet on when the war will end.
Yeah, we can bet on when this podcast will drop, essentially. It's fucking crazy. Like, and that's what's...
And the thing is, I could then bet on that. Right. So me, who's going to drop the podcast,
I know, it's so dumb.
It's fucked up.
And okay, so then why am I like okay with, a local bookie versus... Because one, like a local bookie is there to take your bet. He's not calling you at your house saying, "Hey man, why don't you bet? I'll give you an extra $50 if you bet with $5 with me today." He's not trying to sucker you in. He's also, he might stop taking your bets if you consistently win, but the most likely, more than not, you're not going to consistently win. He can't not pay you out because he didn't like the. I mean, I know that it's sketchy, right? I know that that's so, but at the very least, he's not trying to entice you with free drugs.
Yeah,
and
yes,
that's these fucking it's fucking.
Well, think about.
Insidious.
I mean, like these. In as much as we try, to like talk around the fact, but like these apps are addictive. Right? These apps are meant to draw you in and keep your focus there and keep your attention there. So it's like you're saying, right? I mean, they're offering you drugs and other drugs at the same time.
Well, and they're letting you bet on such, and like, I'm sure when the local bookie is not taking a 50-cent parlay, right?
Right.
I mean, so like, they also entice you with just consistent, constant betting that allows you to view it as micro, micro transactions, and so and without realizing that shit adds up. I mean, like, it's so fucked up. It is so fucked up, and like, having an app on your phone that's consistently pushing to you to say, "Hey, the line tonight and this game is X, Y, and Z, so you better get your bets in soon." "Oh, but the game already started." No worries.
Let's
okay. Let's bet on how many times Kevin Durant scratches his crotch.
We can do a second half parlay.
Right. Yeah. Oh, looks like you lost. Looks like you're going to lose that bet. Here's what you should do: is bet that same amount on this bet here, so you can cover your losses. Fuck.
And guess what? You're going to lose both.
Right.
I used to. I mean, so like I used to play a lot of cards and used to shoot, dice in the street. But like, I started, it's weird. I started shooting dice in the street and then I progressed into like sitting at poker tables and like, Anyway, but I had a
It's all in the game, yo.
Yeah, word. It's America. I had a friend, an
You
older
were
guy.
Snot Boogie?
You gotta let him play. It's America. His mama called him Snot. But I had like this guy was, when I knew him, probably like in his 50s or 60s, had retired from like one job and was just working part-time at this other place. But he at one point used to gamble quite a bit, and he said, look, if you can't gamble in a way where all the money is a way to keep score, then you shouldn't be doing it.
Right.
And I'm just like, yeah, that's kind of messed up, right? Is that like the money is just a way to keep score. That's it. Right. Like today I'm winning, tomorrow I'm losing. Right. I mean, which is such a different, mindset than something like California Split as well. But like it was, it was that idea. Okay. We should stop talking about gambling.
We should.
And we should start talking about houseplants that walk down the street all by themselves. So let's talk about the movie Sunday. Set in Queens, Sunday is a dark comedy about an unemployed, homeless, former IBM employee mistaken by an aging actress for film director Matthew De La Corta.
Yes, not the right actual summary for it, but sure, whatever. We'll go with that because it's what's written out.
So here's the thing. That was kind of from like Wikipedia.
Right.
And because on IMDb, it was just like this huge long summary. And I mean, I could read that whole thing, but I thought I'd go with something short. And it's kind of true, right? He's a former IBM employee. He lives in a homeless shelter.
I mean, maybe not. Maybe he is actually the director you think he is.
Don't get too far ahead of yourself.
Don't
here,
jump ahead.
Right? On the surface, right? David Suchet is those things, right? Former IBM employee in a homeless shelter, right? Lost his job and is mistaken by, right, this actress, right, for someone else. Now, yes, we're never quite sure what is truth and what is fiction, which is one of the things that makes this film so fucking good, and that I cannot believe more people have not seen this and don't talk about it all the time.
No one talks about film in general, period. I mean, like, I know that we all talk about film and you and I talk about film all the time, but even, no one talks about movies anymore. I mean, really, they really don't. I mean, like people talk about films that come out, right? I mean, like they'll talk about Project Hail Mary. That's fine. I mean, it's a fine film. But it's not going to last. It's not, I mean, like, Gosling comes out, and again, I know it's not about Sunday, but Gosling comes out and it's like, I want to make this movie about, I want to make an E.T. basically for, from my fan, this kind of positive fan. That is a great, noble cause. This is not going to be E.T. I mean, there's no chance of anything being E.T. again.
Right.
Nothing's going to hit that zeitgeist again. There's too many things.
Nothing's going to sell out these theaters.
We don't have the attention span to make this an E.T.
Is Hail Mary going to fucking boost Reese's Pieces sales? Probably not.
Right. No. At best, it'll be a round of popcorn buckets that are sold, and then they'll be discarded to landfills across time. I mean, like, and again, it's fine. It has nothing against the movie. It's just not gonna. Even if it was E.T., it wouldn't be E.T. I mean, it's in 2026. The idea that we could have an E.T. Even Barbie and Oppenheimer, that cultural phenomenon. I mean, like, does anybody give a shit about Barbie anymore? Was that such a fucking
I still have my Oppenheimer like figurines though. My action figures, my
Dinner with Andre action figures.
I even have the mushroom cloud,
right? With real, your parents splurged for the mushroom cloud playset.
Yeah, it's like the Millennium Falcon, right?
It's just fucking Josh Safdie and like white, like
and that white face protection. Yeah,
right. It's like you have to. It's like it's so in depth. There are so many cameos. You have to collect all of those action figures,
yes,
right? Oh yeah, but I mean, it's just so why? But this would have been a film that should have popped. That should have made it. But I don't think like Nossiter's films don't do that. Nossiter's not really a director that does that. It has nobody in it. And it's one of those movies that like I was lucky enough, and to be honest, if I hadn't, I probably wouldn't know about it. I was lucky enough to have seen it at the Inwood back in the day. You know, and it probably played for a couple of weeks, and that's when I was like always just living at the Inwood. So I would have seen everything that was there. And then, you know, but it was a wild time for independent film at that time too. So like, I mean, it comes out in between your, you know, let's just say your Spike Lee, She's Gotta Have It, to, you know, to whatever 99, let's say to the whatever art house film in 99 would have kind of capped that era.
Well, something interesting though is like, because you just said like it comes out between things, it won the Grand Jury Prize.
That's the reason I think, I'm sorry.
At Sundance, right? And it is preceded by Welcome to the Dollhouse, right?
Right.
Right. And then the year after it is Slam, but it's also around the same time as like Brothers McMullen. So it's in that kind of like vein, right?
Yeah, but does anybody talk about Brothers McMullen though? Like, does anybody give a shit about, like, I think Welcome to the Dollhouse does staying power, but I'm not sure McMullen does.
Okay, I understand.
Well, I mean, but I hear you. I hear you. And it was also a film of regard in Cannes as well.
Mm-hmm,
so like it should, like it feels like this movie should have gotten a little bit more of a award season run, right? I mean, like it's because it's that perfect kind of Oscar baity, like especially, you know, Golden Globe for Chouchette, kind of like, I mean, like not wins but noms, right? Where you still kind of and then you go back and go, oh, okay, well, what was that movie like?
Well, that's, I mean, I guess that's why like I brought up something like Brothers McMullen, right? Because like at the time, that film was kind of in the conversation, just like amongst like, you know, film people, right?
This didn't exist in 97 either.
That's what I mean. Yeah. I mean, like this, this was nowhere.
Right. I mean, it got a physical media. I mean, obviously everything did back then, but it got a DVD release, but that was basically it. It feels like this movie, I mean, it's such it's an entry, it's an early entry for Jared Harris. It's not like the earliest entry for Jared Harris. But it also has all of the, I mean, it's not necessarily like as shocking as something like Kids, but it has kind of the same trappings of like using real people. And
a
then
mix
really
of
kind
actors
of
and non-actors.
Yeah. And not in I mean, like clearly Kids was an exploitative type of way, but like this case, it's more, this is more just kind of a naturalistic setting to the film as a whole. I don't know, we haven't even really talked about like what the film, I mean, we've given the through line. We haven't really talked about what the film is, but I mean, like, yeah, it was so, I mean, it's so steady. It's so good. And like, it also has that mystery element to it that it feels like this would have sparked a conversation about, who we say we are. What do we present? Like, how do we present ourselves in relationships? Like, what is this? What is it? How do we navigate these kind of like, these worlds where we're trying to be something that we're not, or we're trying to hide who we actually are. And I think, it's what's so interesting about it is, and again, we can get into the actual meat and potatoes of it, but I think what's so interesting about it, is the third hand of this film, which is her husband.
Yeah.
Which I think is also, I mean, like, I think that's a really, that's what kind of puts this over the top for me, is that it's not just about, aging people trying to either reclaim or, redefine themselves because of the situations they find themselves in. But it is just about this entirety of like how we manipulate and how we how we try to drive situations to our benefit. And Marcy's totally on board with what I'm saying. So that's good.
Yeah, Marcy was upset she didn't get to watch it with me. But to add on to what you say, there's also this through line of how easy it is to fall from a kind of not even great heights, just any kind of height, right? So even if we take like on the face that our character Oliver / Matthew is who we're supposed to believe he is, and that is just a kind of man who lost his job, etc. Part of what this movie talks about is how quickly, right, things go. You can go from having a good job and a good family life to being in a homeless shelter, right?
Right.
In this country, right? How quick, right? It goes from there to there, right? And again, with our aging actress, right? How fast she goes from doing Shakespeare on stage to being offered female zombie roles, right? That don't talk, right? So, I mean, I think that's another line there, right? And I do think like the husband and the manipulation, but also he's the guy that calls people out on their bullshit.
Right.
Now, I mean, he can't admit his own bullshit, right? But, right, he's just like, look, I know you're not who you say you are. And I know that you're lying to me about these other things. But also, like, he's such an ass, right? That he can't do the same thing. But it's still there. But I think that's all part of it, too, and part of how we navigate, right, that this world, or like the new worlds that we find ourselves in.
Yeah. So the movie starts off with us kind of like almost a 10-minute, like, session where we wake up with Oliver, but we also wake up in this kind of halfway house for unhomed. I guess I mean, like, they're men that don't, they're
unhoused. Unhoused. Like,
I saw this comedian was like, you can't say homeless, and she's like, I don't think their problem is marketing. It was a funny joke. It was like, but so yeah, and it's just their interplay and like how they have to share these bathrooms and their common spaces and kind of navigate this world together. And they're obviously different at different stations in their lives. And then so once we do that, we kind of come back to them, occasionally throughout the film. That's kind of we're kind of peppered with going back to them and their commentary on when the situation as a whole, but they don't know what's going on with Oliver's day necessarily. They just know, they just talk about him a little bit.
He's sort of like the least liked in that small community. And I think the big thing is that they're all like, he thinks he's better than everybody, right? He's got, a Lysol can that he sprays on stuff.
Right. And he keeps it to himself, which I think,
which is hilarious. I mean, especially as it comes back in the end.
Right. Yes. And then we cut to, like you said, a plant walking down the street. And then these two characters meet. And then one of them is Madeline, who, like you said, is a aging actress. And who come to find out that she, basically saves plants who are kind of down on their luck and dying.
Yes.
And make the argument that that's what she's doing for Oliver.
That's what she's doing with Oliver. Yeah.
She sees him across the way. And she recognizes him or misrecognizes him as a director of that she had met in London at one point, and he goes with it, and then the story's on, and then we just kind of follow them throughout this day, where they are just kind of two people who are needing to be seen. They banter back and forth. They talk about they kind of talk around who they actually are. They tell each other stories, which leads to a very realistic and like kind of abrupt but gentle lovemaking session
on the stairs.
On the stairs,
on the landing.
Yeah, right.
Best is that moment or the moment in History of Violence the best use of stair sex in a film?
I will say that
there's only one answer: Maria Bello.
Right. Sorry. I will say that well, okay. So there's another one. Isn't there one? No, I was thinking Less Than Zero's outside on a chain link fence.
Yeah.
And that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
That's Jamie Gertz. That one's quite slightly different.
Yeah. Chain link fences and stairs.
It's Maria Bello. Also, I will say Donnie Brasco's not bad.
Okay.
Right. For sex, for
stair sex.
Yeah, for stair sex.
Yeah.
But I think this, one before we get, we can pause here in regards to kind of just the regards to the filmmaking. I think, Nossiter's acknowledgement of real bodies and real situations post coitus and like, and because we see Oliver / Matthew on the stair landing after this is all over and he's trying to collect himself, but he's sitting there pantless but not like completely pantless because they're just down around his ankles. But, you know, you see him full frontal. And it's just a really like interesting way that he approaches these two kind of vulnerable people in vulnerable situations. And I think that's one other thing that kind of separates this film from other films is there's not this, like, it's not ever, there are moments that are leering, but they're only leering because our characters are wanting them to be leering, right? It's not meant to be necessarily overly tittillating, although it still is. I mean, like, I mean, just because these situations are.
Yeah. But the ending, right, where they're both like, you know, naked. Well, I mean, and she is completely nude, like lying on the bed, and he is standing there, you know, like had just put a towel around his waist. I mean, that's another moment where it's not, or at least I don't find it like erotic, right? I do find it intimate and I do find it vulnerable, but it's not erotic. And you're right, like Nossiter is saying, like these are real bodies, right? These are like real people in a kind of like very all too real scenario that they have just found themselves in.
That moment at the end where Ben, her husband's looking up at them from the stairwell, and she kind of gives him a little glance knowing that he's there, but they're still kind of like holding each other, kind of like trying to warm each other up after a shower. I thought that was a really, really great scene. But the scene after the landing is like where Nossiter and the writer who wrote the short story, his name is James Lasden. I think the script is so good in that moment so we're led to believe kind of Madeline is living by herself. She's, you know, she lives in an apartment. It's kind of under disarray.
Wait, can you take a step back?
Sure. Yeah.
Because you mentioned the stories they tell each other, but we didn't mention sort of what those stories were.
Right. Sure.
Because I think that like is really important for how the rest of the film plays out. Right.
True.
And so like, you know, they're sitting there having wine and she's like, tell me one of your stories. And so he basically just tells her like his day.
Right. Up until the point of what's happened. Right. I mean, where like this person like recognizes me and I decide to go along with that story.
Yeah. I mean, but he is being honest, right? This is a moment where he's telling the truth and we're kind of like, oh, okay, what's she going to do? And then he's like, so tell me one of your stories. And she essentially does the same thing. Right. Where she's like,
I see this broken down thing and I tell them that I recognize them for someplace else, but I'm really going to take it back to the apartment.
I'll use the Matthew Della Corsa thing. That's worked before. It always works. And you're just kind of like, holy shit. Like this is a moment where I think the director and writer really plant in our heads, right? Like what actually is going, like who actually are these two people, right?
Right.
And what do they mean to each other? And where is this going to go? But then she says, and then my like brute of a husband comes in, right? And so like she kind of like, and then we see this happen.
Right. And so he comes in and Oliver / Matthews walking down the steps because he confronts her adopted daughter.
Yeah.
And you know, he tells her that his name is Oliver and then the husband comes in and is like, he introduces him, but Madeline's in the shower and her husband's like, will you go and tell her that I'm here? And he's like, you want me to go and tell her that? And he's like, yeah, you can go, just go up there and take his. And so she comes out and then this whole like row happens. But I love the fact that like, one of the funniest lines to me is like, oh, is it? Did he see upstairs? Did he go?
Is he an upstairs guest?
Is an upstairs guest? It's like it's Sunday. Your upstairs time.
Upstairs guest.
I just this idea that he's giving her shit for sleeping around or sleeping with men, and they're separated. I just love the fact that he's very like Gould-esque in this way of like it's kind of like owning the situation but being like a cad. But it was like, but look, I didn't do anything. I mean, I thought I was, I think you can agree with me that I was perfectly fine. I was like perfectly polite. I didn't really,
Right. Then he makes up the story about his scar.
Yeah, so he shows him his open heart surgery scar, or maybe she actually did attack him with a, but he's like, she's crazy and she attacked me with garden shears. And it's like this really huge, long scar up and down his chest. But that interchange is so good. And I mean, like, the actor's Larry Pine. You'd
Pine.
recognize him and if you saw him.
Yeah, he's such a kind of like that guy actor,
Right.
but he's always great. I mean,
he looks
just-
like Greg
always
Brady
great.
in a way. He looks like an older Greg Brady, but like, but yeah, he's amazing in this. And comes back into kind of like I said, I don't think it's without him, this movie doesn't work nearly as well. Like that consistent like prodding and kind of just being the foil between these two is so
like,
well done. And it also
like
allows
antagonist confrontation too. Yes.
Right. And it also allows these two people who, on a different movie where this is just a straight love story, then there's some sort of made up nonsense that splits them apart, right? This doesn't have to happen that way because you have him in there to kind of interject. So there's not a break and then they come back together because of some contrived, nonsense. You just have her ex-husband or, her current husband who's separated,
her estranged husband,
right? doing all that.
Yeah.
I love the kid too, like, which is like, he didn't say his name was Matthew. Like, he didn't mention the plant before. I don't know. Like, Oliver's not the name of the plant.
And she pulls out his wallet at one point. Right. And even when Madeline like takes the wallet from her, you see this moment where she's going to open it and then decides not to. Right. I mean, again, the writer director telling us maybe she just wants to go along with this, like for the day. There are so many times where he confesses to her like the truth or the truth on paper. Right. And she just won't believe it. Right. He's like, yeah, I live in a like homeless shelter. She's like, you're doing that for a movie? That is dedication. Right. And you're just like, what? She is just constantly making up reasons for her to continue to believe that this is, actually Matthew de la Corda, which again, maybe it is, right? That's something I love about this film is that like, I'm never really sure.
Right. And I think I think that's the one thing that kind of like, again, like this movie does a really good job of like weaving you back and forth between this, is he, isn't he, is she, isn't she kind of, or, is she, isn't she kind of situation, because at the end of this movie, her husband goes in and like prints out all these like on this long fax paper. He has this thing faxed to him about Matthew de la Corda's movie, and it comes down and it's like it could be him.
It could be him.
It looks like he's just a generic looking white dude who's kind of balding and like, and so we don't really ever know. Whether or not,
because I mean that picture is not great resolution, and like as you're looking at it, you're like, that okay, like wait, am I supposed to think that really is him? Or and not?
And then we cut back to the halfway house, and all the men are talking about, man, I thought he has all these things, he has a bigger room than all the rest of us. Like, I saw him with a big bag of money, he had a big wad of 20s, or maybe it wasn't 20s. I don't know. Maybe I didn't see him with money, and it's that. I don't know. It's really like all of that is just it's just so well played, and especially for like an hour and change movie. Like I mean, an hour and 30-minute movie. It's like it's so crisp and
I mean that's something that I really love about this film is how quickly it moves and how like we kind of stay with. When we're with the two characters, with Madeline and Oliver / Matthew, right? It's just like a storytelling session, right? I mean, they're just kind of like telling each other stories the whole time, and so it's never boring, right? They're always kind of creating and on their toes, and then we cut to like almost like a more documentary style where we see these guys from the shelter going about their day, right? One guy is doing basically karaoke on the subway, another guy is like hanging out on the like bridge and on the street, like, and they're all kind of trying to get money in different ways. I mean, Jared Harris is like walking around looking menacing and stuff,
as he does.
But right. Still to this day, but we just like cut back and forth, and I just think it's a really kind of interesting like juxtaposition that's showing like these different kind of lives and how close they really are. Right. And how like, again, like there's a fine line between, this and that.
Yeah.
But I think the style is just really compelling in watching this. And I love at the end how everyone's like bitching about like, Oliver. He can't have, the Lysol's communal property. He can't have it all to his own. He can't like do this. And so two of the guys finally go back and like they grab the Lysol and they put it out like, in public. And then Jared Harris gets all pissed off. They just took we've got to talk about this. He just went in there and took this thing that was his. And you're like, okay. Like, I just think it's a really kind of fascinating way to end this movie, right? And then we cut to like him walking down the street again. But yeah.
And I think they're really interesting surrogates for the audience as well. Yep. I mean, these conversations that you'll have, right? Of like,
yeah. Right. Because they're just kind of like, well, wait, what's he doing with that woman, right? What's going on there? And then, I mean, as they're all talking to each other, kind of, as the shelter is getting ready to lock up for the night, right? Yeah, they can't decide, like, what was he or what, wait, he's always doing this, but why does he have this? Why does he have that? Yeah.
And this idea that like, okay, it's 8:00 or the end credits have rolled. So we don't have to worry about it, right? It's just that now it's a thing. Like, do we actually care? Like,
where
now
does
that
he go?
Now that the
Is
movie's
he gonna get
over,
back in the show? Right.
Do we actually give a shit?
Yeah. But I think
do we need to keep talking about it? Like, yeah.
But I think that's like something else, right? That the writer and director, like, they give us no resolution on really who, right, this character is, Oliver / Matthew, because the shelter's been locked up. He can't get in for the night if he even needs to. And that's something else that I think that they leave us with. Like, where's he going to go? Does he have another home to go to? Or is that it? And so, like, we're constantly going back and forth. And yeah, like you said, the credits roll. Can we just, like, forget about it now? Or, like, but clearly, no, we can't.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's been like one for me that like I think I had the DVD at one point. I don't have it anymore, but and it's like, so again, if we're going to promote where you can find it, you go out to Dailymotion. It's out. There's actually a pretty high quality version out on Dailymotion. Yeah. Again, to watch with ads. There's a lower quality version with like subs on it on YouTube as well. So if you don't care for Dailymotion and want to watch a blurrier version, you can watch it on YouTube.
Yeah. But it is so worth your time to watch.
Yeah,
this movie.
an hour and 35, and it's just and actually probably less than that, because I think which is like an hour and 30 with credits, so it's probably an hour. Yeah. It's under an hour and 30, and like it's just a grown-up film. Like, I mean, it's just a movie that, like I said, I'm not going to sit here and say like it doesn't get made anymore, because I think there's things that like I think that kind of still work in today's cinema that are parallels. But I will say that like it's one of those ones that like you will wonder why it
doesn't exist.
It does not exist. Like, it just doesn't. No one talks about it. And I mean, there's a ton of films that are like that, but none of I don't think are as deserving to be talked about like this one was. And like you said, I think having it win the grand jury prize, having it be a film of regard at Cannes, it should have some more import than it does. And I think really kind of accessibility is part of the problem. I think if it were to get a boutique release, I think people would really.
I think it'd be back in the conversation. I think people would really. There's so much to talk about with this film, right? I mean, we can't do it justice. And well, I mean, look, we could keep talking for like 3 hours, but I don't. We're not allowed to. But
right.
But I mean, like you brought up earlier, this film touches on so many different things. I mean, from identity to downsizing.
Right. Yeah. Who are we when we don't like that was the thing about.
And like he says about the job, he's like, when people ask you what you do, they're asking you who you are.
Right. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Very profound.
Yeah. We'll add it to the rotation of things to program in front of a larger group of people. But I think it'd be really cool to get it. Yeah. Again, get it in front of a crowd.
It deserves to be seen by more people. And maybe we're just the two guys.
Maybe
to make that happen. Yeah. Okay, so thank you for the presents. I really dug these. I really dug these three films, and I mean, I think that they all are, well, let's just call them experimental in a way, right? I think that they take a very kind of like non-traditional route in the storytelling. And so I think that's something else that I can appreciate, even if like Abruptio has the most kind of like straight through narrative, I think, of the three, right? But it also has puppets. And so it gives us something new, something different.
Doesn't it feel weird about Abruptio that doesn't have like more of a, I mean, especially with this being tied to horror, it doesn't have more of a presence, like something like Skinamarink or Good Boy, or like, I mean, That it didn't get at least more of like a some
this
sort
should
of
be like a cult classic kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not, which does feel strange because it's a really well done film. That is every bit as terrifying as those other films that you talked about, right? I mean, obviously in a different way, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it feels like it should exist, beyond just a Tubi release. It feels like it should have. It feels like it should be, like a movie, not to like
right.
Not to
no,
rhyme,
you're right,
but
right. Tubi movie. I mean, it's, yeah. But no, you're
also,
right.
Movie, if you want to hit us up with money, that we'd be happy to take that cash as well.
Look, we talk a lot about your films. Movie.
Uh-oh. My dogs are excited.
I was saying that was your. Those are your dogs. So
somebody's
look,
walking by.
That's right. To anyone who thought we weren't dog lovers, fuck you.
Right.
That person's not listening. It's fine. Yeah. Cue you, buddy. All right. Next, on our next episode, Jason, which we are very, very excited about, we'll be dipping back into the early alts with very special guest Joey LePage and Lindsay Robertson. Though that wonderful director couple behind the film Party People. So they will be joining us to talk about Three Women. I am excited. So listeners, keep your ears open for that. We will do our best not to sort of like stumble all over ourselves as we talk to them.
How far off are we on I have not looked at the line of films in a minute for Altman.
Yeah, no, we're just completely out of order.
Zigzagging all over the place because we have people wanting to talk about certain films. That's fine. It's fine. I don't have no one cares, right? But I do find it funny that I
think we're only like a couple off. I think, so we did California Split. We did The Long Goodbye. We need to do, what is it? Thieves Like Us.
No, that's the next one that we haven't done.
Yeah,
right?
so that's the one that like we're kind of out of order on. That should have been the next one, and then we're skipping that, right, to do Three Women. Then we'll go back to Thieves Like Us. Then we've got to do Nashville with Colin at some point. We got to schedule that. But that's nobody's business, and we will take care of that eventually, and it'll be fine. It'll be great. It'll be great. We don't need to do these in order. We can zigzag all over. That is part of our charm, my friend.
But yeah, you're right. We're not. We bumped. I guess we're not too far off. You're right. Thieves Like Us is the one that we're. Yeah. Obviously, we're jumping Buffalo Bill and Nashville with Three Women.
Yeah. But we'll come back to them,
and then we'll come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
How could you not do Buffalo Bill? So, but keep close attention to Three Women, because that will be
pick out your favorite one. We want to know which of the women is your favorite. Is it the middle one or the one on the right or the left?
We're still waiting for a middle one.
Yes, those don't come around very often.
All right, so
inside jokes.
there's always going to be inside jokes. Sometimes I have inside jokes just with myself.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
No one else gets it, but it's just there for me. All right. Well, until next time, thank you all for listening.
And keep cooing. Keep cooing. You have been listening to Why Does the Wilhelm Scream with your hosts, Brock and Jason. If you liked today's episode, do us a favor and rate, review, and subscribe in whatever application you use to consume podcasts these days. You can reach us by visiting whydoesthewilhelmscream.com. If you are in the DFW area, we would love to see you at a Fort Worth Film Club event. You can learn more about those and find a full schedule at fortworthfilmclub.com. And you can learn about my foundation and how we are trying to foster the next generation of film lovers at realhousefoundation.org. That's REEL housefoundation.org. Till next time,